To our grantee webinar. Hopefully, some folks were able to log on last Friday for the general overview. If not, not a big deal. Today, our goal is to work with eligible entities to walk through the grant application and some of the framework associated with building your grant. So as we begin, so that we can do a good job tracking all of your comments, if you could reformat your name to first and last name, organization title would be great. And that way we know we can find you. We're going to be using the chat for our questions. Answers will be provided in our FAQ document posted on our website. We'll try our best to answer them as we go and also in the chat, but we'll also grab them and put them in our kind of back end tracker to make sure that the FAQ is robust. Yes, Krista, the PowerPoint will be available, and this meeting is also being recorded. So if you want to watch it again, because it was so much fun, Krista, you could either text me or you could watch this thing again. And some folks, because of the tight turnaround, just may not have been able to be here. So we wanted to make sure that we posted it. As I named earlier, the end of the presentation, we're going to help you understand and do a deeper dive into the summer learning grants specific to House Bill 2007. As we had 4082 and many of you were grantees for 4082, things shifted a little bit in this session and we moved towards a little bit of different approach that we'll teach you into today. And make sure that you understand how to track into the literacy components of a summer learning program. You're going to understand the programmatic borders of our new legislation. And also, we'll have Savannah walk through the application form. We tried our best. We streamlined some things. We added some things. We deleted some things. But if you filled out the application before, then you have some experience with this. We didn't try to do a whole new document or the like. We tried to keep everything as much the same as we possibly could. And then we'll also be providing ongoing technical assistance, resources, and supports. And so we'll make sure that you have access to those spaces by the end of the meeting. Oh, thank you, Ronald. All right. So what about the timing? So we know we've been in kind of a feast or famine moment with summer learning, where we had a lot of cash early on with the ESSER process. We were without dollars for a little bit. Then we had the short session dollars, and we headed out into the goal of obtaining permanency through this process. So House Bill 2007, we had our informational webinar on the 18th, right after the bill passed the legislature. Governor Kotek signed the bill on April 23rd, and we notified eligible entities just 2 days later. We find ourselves together right now on the 29th for the application webinar, and too soon, I know it, but the applications are due, and we'll talk about what is due on May 12th. We understand that the timeline is super compressed. We get it. And this is the space that we're in as the legislature is still in session, and the governor's office and the legislature, our bill sponsors, Solomon and Ruiz, did a great job pushing this through the legislative process to ensure that we have our dollars and our grantees for this year. So I know we're on a compressed timeline. This is the only way to get access to dollars in 2025. This is a great slide. Oh, want an extra one.
This one.
Yep, this is a great slide. And the top section really shows how we've been living the last few years. This really compressed timeline, legislator takes action, we all churn and burn, you offer the summer program, and then we're not sure what's going to happen next. That is the case for 25. But for 26, things look different. Into the future, now that we have permanent funding, we'll have a lot of time to plan. We're going to pivot to as soon as these grantees that you start on your summer process, we're going to start to work on rules and long-term planning for our summer learning programs as a state. And in the future, you'll know as early as October and be able to start working on your summer programming through the year and then offer your summer programs in June. So deep breaths as we have another cycle of compressed timelines, but just noting that really excited that into the future we have what we asked for in 4082 and what we've been dreaming about as a summer learning community to really have that better timeline and ongoing funding. You all know, or those of you who are in the summer learning space, those of you who are new to the summer learning space, we really ground ourselves in these foundational components of high quality summer learning programs. We want to ensure that we have high levels of access and opportunity and nestle ourselves in academic enrichment, a length of time that is research based, that we provide free meals and transportation, that students regularly attend, and we'll talk about that requirement, that there are no costs or fees to families, and that we're dedicated to ongoing professional learning for the program staff and our CBO partners.
I just want to jump in. I saw something. Were we not sharing the slide deck?
I see slides.
You see slides? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Apologies.
I think folks were looking for it so they could tab through.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, next slide for me. All right, so how did we build on 4082 and sharpen our focus for 2007? So it was really important to us and the summer learning community that we really made sure that we paid attention to what we learned in House Bill 4082 and the work group, and that we supported our high quality summer learning programs through those community partnerships, those evidence-informed strategies, accelerated learning and academic growth, inclusive and student-centered programming, and prioritizing focal group students as defined in the Student Success Act. So 2007 really builds on 4082, and it also adds a requirement to prioritize literacy instruction and students not yet proficient in English language arts. So that is the little bit of a twist that we weren't expecting in the summer learning sphere. And we've got this. We've got this. It's going to be great. We know our students' literacy is of high importance to the state, to all of you, and to students. And so we can merge these things together to really meet the needs of students and Oregonians. So what's new in 2007? If you haven't spent much time reading it, we're going to let you know. It responds to the need for that biennial funding, so that ongoing funding piece. In future biennia, it may focus on other academic areas based on statewide data and identified need. So we had our summer learning kind of pathway with enrichment and high quality experiences. Now we're overlaying this literacy component, which is great. And in the future, when we have really high quality literacy scores, and we may decide to focus in on math or to focus in on science. But 2007 asks us to focus on literacy, and in the future, potentially shift to other academic areas of need based on our data. Eligible entities are now include our tribal nations. As I named, programs must focus on literacy. We'll talk about how. It requires the prioritization of students. So we'll discuss a little bit about how you get the right students in the space in terms of students that are not yet proficient in English language arts, and we prioritize those students in addition to our focal student groups. Use of evidence-based literacy strategies. So it's going to be really important that the instruction matches that need, that literacy need, and that we have to measure and report student growth outcomes. The accountability component of this is the legislature gives us dollars, right? And we're going to measure whether those dollars are making the kinds of literacy and summer learning growth gains that they're asking for with this legislation. So literacy, as you know, in the state of Oregon is one of our governor's top initiatives, one of Dr. Williams, our director's top initiatives, and all of yours as leaders in our state. We take a look at our student scores, and we know that literacy is a key foundation to success. So we're just grounding in that Oregon is committed to those confident, capable readers, and that you have a part in the summer learning programming to create those confident, capable readers. And we want to make sure that we center ourselves that summer learning is a powerful strategy to reduce the summer slide, accelerate student growth, And we do so with intentional design, really strong work and instruction, and all partnerships with people in our community.
Okay, so I'll jump in now, and here are our 3 goals for our state summer learning grants for 2025. The overall purpose of this grant is to accelerate learning and increase academic growth with a focus on literacy. So we've said it, I don't know how many times, and we'll continue to say it. Our focus is on literacy here. The reason why we ground in these goals, as you design your programs, as you make choices on how to use your grant funds, it always comes back to these 3 goals. The first one is advancing academic learning. So prioritizing literacy and other content areas that align with student needs, including math, science, and credit recovery. So there's room for credit recovery here. We must align with Oregon standards focused on evidence-based practices, and you may assist with grade level transitions. So if you have a kinder transition program, a Jumpstart Kinder program, a 9th grade counts program, or that transition to and from high school, you can support those transition programs with summer learning funds. The second goal is equally critical, is to support youth development with hands-on, inquiry-based, project-based learning, which may include access to the heart, yes, and the arts, and reinforce academic growth and alignment to standards. So it's really bringing that content to life in interesting ways and giving kids opportunities to engage in learning that's relevant and meaningful, and reading along the way, and infusing literacy. Also supporting our students' mental, emotional, and social well-being. So the third goal is equitable access and family partnership. So all 3 goals are equally important. We can build the best summer program, but if families don't know about it, if we aren't engaging with purposeful engagement and outreach, they might not come. So purposeful outreach and engaging students and families really critical for these voluntary programs. So what we know, evidence plus engagement equals student growth. So if you look at these 2 sections, evidence-based literacy instruction, and then also creating rich, relevant learning experiences, I think back to those 3 goals. So the first one I think of as far as aligning academics, I think of, small group reading. Maybe there's some high dosage tutoring in there. Maybe there's small groups based on foundational reading skills. So there's all of that really good instructional components coming based on the science of reading, based upon evidence-based practices that all you know so well. And then there's that other component where you're bringing that to life with those STEM projects, where there's cultural exploration, where there's field trips, where they're able to build that background knowledge and that rich relevance and meaning to help with their comprehension skills. And we're infusing literacy throughout. So we can do that in a number of ways with our partnerships and with our staff that we bring on board. So it's really both those pieces together, creating a holistic summer program. So this slide is really about all the work we did this past summer. Our previous funding came from House Bill 4082, and part of that bill was to create a work group that could help us with this plan for the future. And the House Bill 4082 work group, which consisted of over 150 educational partners, came up with this vision. And it's a bold vision. So the vision was by 2030 that every school district in this state, every school district charter school, would have the opportunity to have a high quality summer learning program or high quality after school program. And it's really based on this model of, moving from that old archaic version of summer school that I remember. I think it's aging me, or these are not your grandparents' summer schools. These remedial, skill and drill, quiet, task-oriented, punitive model of summer school, but really moving into that high quality learning where there's well-rounded, integrated, project-based, student-centered, that they're accessible for all of our kids, where they're strength-based, asset-based programs. The last thing that we want to do is turn summer learning into, oh, that's the place all the kids who don't know how to read go. That's not what we're aiming for. We are aiming for those programs that kids want to attend, that we want to engage kids head and heart, and that we know that when these programs are done well, students attend school more regularly, and there's a direct research correlation to engaging them in this way and providing both rigorous academic instruction and that beautiful opportunity for youth development with high interest activities. So we're really pleased to announce the release today of our Summer 2025 Program Parameters document. This is your guide as an eligible entity. This is your guide. It should have all the things you need to know around grant requirements. There's information around program design and structure. So that tells you about attendance, grade level transitions, partnership requirements, academic expectations as far as prioritizing students, aligning to literacy, evidence-based practices, and academic goal setting. Also, we have operational requirements. So there is a requirement that you have a pre-existing plan. There's reporting requirements as well, and eligible uses of funds. So this is your anchor document. I think Kat probably dropped it in the chat. I would click on that. I would bookmark it so that you have it right there with you as you are designing and putting together your summer programs. So as Tennille was saying, there are definitely some shifting programmatic borders that you need to be aware of for this summer. Again, that 80 continuous hours of in-person programming for a consistent cohort of students. Jumpstart transition programs, the requirement, the floor of that is 30 hours. Programs must meet all three key grant goals. Prioritizing literacy aligned to Oregon standards. You must have an existing summer program plan. So I know, I know you're thinking, okay, what is that? We're going to go into that. Don't worry. You probably have it. So, and ODE is going to work with you throughout this process. We know the timeline is short. You must partner with another organization, another entity. Enrichment, field trips, they must be purposeful. House Bill 2007 created some borders around that. So any kind of field trips or enrichment activities must be aligned and tied to rich learning. Also, these programs are not drop-in models. So it's really when kids can attend the whole program consistently, day after day, we know that they can realize these beautiful results and the outcomes that we're striving for. So here is a definition, the definition of a summer program. So a summer program is an in-person, coordinated experience where a consistent cohort of students, yep, I've said it 3 times, a consistent cohort of students participates together in academic learning, youth development, totaling at least 80 continuous hours. Okay, so again, this isn't a couple days here, a couple days there, or partners doing this activity over here with a different cohort of students over here. It's really a holistic program coming together. So programs can operate at multiple sites. So maybe you start at the elementary school in the daytime or in the morning, and then kids transition over to the YMCA in the afternoon. That's acceptable as long as it's that consistent cohort of students that are realizing the full program. Partner activities may count towards those 80 hours. So as long as the program is intentionally designed together. And each summer program must align with the goals of the State Summer Learning Grant. And note that these requirements must be applied to each summer program that you operate. So if you have an elementary program that's all inclusive, or maybe there's a high school program that's separate and distinct, all of those requirements apply to each and every one of those programs. Okay, so here's where we get into the prioritization of our students. So the goal is that you're providing specific outreach and engagement and inviting those students who are not yet reading at grade level so that they have the opportunity to come and participate first. So to do that, you're going to tap into your local student level data, right? So your benchmark assessments, your curriculum-based measures that you're using, you know your kids, you know who needs to be invited to the program. So some type of prioritization and purposeful outreach inviting those kids who would benefit the most to the program. Also, just emphasizing that idea that there's small group reading that's going on, that's taught daily, that's trained by a licensed educator, taught by trained staff or certified staff, or someone who is trained in providing that small group instruction. Should be developmentally appropriate and, as always, culturally responsive. Also, just ensure that your program not only addresses those achievement gaps, but those underlying opportunity gaps as well. So we want to also continue to prioritize our focal student groups. We expect that focal student groups should take up a significant proportion of your program. So it really should reflect the demographics of your school or your community that you're serving. So really, you should have more focal students, more kids not yet reading at grade level in your summer program than your overall demographic. However, all kids are invited, right? These are voluntary programs. You're just going to make extra efforts to get those students who would benefit the most into the program. And we want to do that in a way that feels asset-based and exciting and inviting and wrapping our arms around students and families and saying, come enjoy this amazing opportunity to participate in these fun and engaging learning experiences. So attendance, again, it's not a drop-in program. So the question always is, well, what happens if I have a family and they're going on this vacation or they can't attend this day or that? These decisions are made at the local level, but effort should be made to share that, hey, this program, it runs from here to here. We encourage students who attend every single day, that we know these programs make a big difference and we want to prioritize that regular attendance. Will you have a few kids come and go? Absolutely. You don't want to turn anyone away, but prioritizing those who can stay in the program consistency to realize all of the benefits. Here's an example of a half-day schedule. This is also in our program parameters guide. A program can look a lot of different ways, and all across Oregon, it just always surprises me how creative districts and charter schools and ESDs are when they're providing these different structures that really support their community and their families and their community. You can choose to do a half-day model. You could do a half-day model where elementaries in the morning and secondaries in the afternoon. You can group it where you have, let's say, school district staff, ESD staff doing small group instruction, and then you have your YMCA and Boys and Girls Club or other culturally specific organizations coming in to provide enrichment. There are all kinds of ways that you can mix and match the schedule. But the important thing is that it has that component where all three of those goals are purposely embedded in the program for that baseline of 80 hours. Here's an example of a full day schedule. Not going to go into this. We are also going to be offering some webinars and other opportunities for those who are really interested to share and collaborate around the different schedules and structures. So there's a lot more coming up forward. Meals and transportation. So when I think about transportation, I'll start there at the bottom first. What we know to be true about this space is transportation is the biggest barrier. That if we do not have the structures where students can get to programs, we're often not serving the students who would benefit the most. So transportation is a big, big deal in summer learning. You may use grant funds to support transportation, and we suggest you contact your transportation department if you're going to accept these funds as soon as possible. It is the biggest barrier to participation. And if we're truly about access and opportunity, we really need to provide the structures so students can attend the program and then get home. Meals and snacks. So under House Bill 2007, it is a requirement now that if you are eligible for a USDA child nutrition program, that you would tap into them and utilize those resources first. So we know that summer's basically tomorrow and that it might take a minute to get this on board. Our child nutrition programs are standing ready at ODE. They know about this grant and are eager to support. So try there first to get meals in place. If you do not qualify, or if it doesn't fully meet your needs, the nutritional aspects, a portion of your grant funds may be used to support snacks and meals. So don't worry, we've got you covered on this, but reach out to child nutrition as soon as possible, as well as transportation. Okay, we're going really fast, and I know this is a lot of information, and it might feel a little overwhelming. It's take a deep breath. We're all on this really tight timeline. But here is some more information, and we will have a webinar session around braiding funds. So here the slide shows some designated programs, grant programs, designated for summer learning. So we have 2 state programs. We have this big grant program, our state summer learning grants. And then we have the Student Success Act Summer Program Grant. Now, the names don't make it easier to tell the difference between these 2 grants. We realize that. So there's the SSA Summer Program Grant, which has very specific requirements, but they really do align to our state summer learning grants. So there's an opportunity to braid and blend those funds with that program. Also, other state funding areas, we have our early literacy success grants. We have that extended learning portion of that where we encourage you to braid funds with early literacy. It's the perfect platform for that. Also, we have our high school success grants, and we have our student investment account grants as well that many of you are using after school and summer. So please look for those ways where you can coordinate and use those state funds efficiently, as well as our federal funds. So we have our Title IV-B, 21st Century Community Learning Center grants. The grant goals with 21st century programs match perfectly. So this is a great place to braid and blend. You have to look at supplement with Title IV-B and with Title I-C, our migrant education programs, but another wonderful, beautiful opportunity to bring those programs together. Also our ESY grants, we'll have more information on that coming soon. That's a lot there. As well as Title I-A, Title IV-A, Title III, Title II, and CTE grants as well. All right, so you're saying to yourself, wow, boy, summer's tomorrow. There's a lot of new requirements under House Bill 2007. This is a tight timeline. Don't worry, we are here to help. If you are interested in taking these funds, ODE wants to lock arms with you. If you have any concerns about the program requirements, we know this is year 1, right? This just happened. So if you're thinking, oh, there's no way, I have to have a USDA child nutrition program, I'm out, I can't do it. Call us. We can figure out how to get you from here to there for this summer 2025. This is our anchor year. So please, if you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure about accepting funds, reach out to us and let us help you. All right, with that, I'll turn it back over to Tennille.
I see some questions in the chat around partnership. Ian wanted to similar to last year. We do have a partnership requirement. So an applicant must form a partnership with at least one entity. Just to note, on average, we had 6 partners per entity. So this is something that's achievable. Some of you are thinking, I don't have that many partners in my community. And we understand that is not necessarily similar in nature across the state. And there's a long list of folks that you can partner with. You can partner with other school districts, ESDs, our federally recognized tribes, CBOs, nonprofits, for-profits, local businesses and workforce, institutions of higher ed, units of local government. So you're thinking, the library, the fish hatchery, folks like that, local service districts, local libraries, parks, etc. So this partnership list is pretty broad, and as a result, every area should be able to find a partner. If you're struggling, let us know. We'll find a pathway to support you. Partnership really matters. One of the things that we made sure that was a focal part of our 4082 work group was how we partner with our community-based organizations. And it is really important that we center ourselves on this partnership. It expands our reach. It increases our access, our students' access, and culturally responsive components of our programs. We reach more students, and we reach especially those that are furthest from opportunity. We also need to build trust and belonging with these partnerships. We know that one system cannot do this alone. And as a result, with a network of partners, we're able to reach our students and get this work completed in a comprehensive way that enriches our students' lives. We also want to strengthen our local economies. It's really key that we connect with the people around us to ensure that they're also engaged on these opportunities. And we're creating that collective impact, the whole of Oregon involved. We have 35 million right now, which is not a lot of money. But into the future, our big goal is that every school district and every part of the state has access to funds to ensure that students have opportunities in the summer. Insurance has been a problem. Let's just face it. It's a tough one. And we just wanted to make sure that we put it into the space. As a K-12, you already know that you have a requirement for SAMS insurance, sexual abuse and molestation insurance, and that it's a necessary necessary part of the work that you do on an ongoing basis. It's also a necessary part of our partner work that we do, ensuring that our students are safe. So to ensure that all requirements are understood and met early, it's essential to avoid any interruptions to service delivery. You need to have these conversations with your partners and support. There's definitely pathways where you can help them get access to the training that's necessary. You can focus your attention to work with PACE, the insurance broker, or their attorney as needed to determine and understand their insurance obligations. I'm not an insurance provider, and I know that reading those insurance documents are not easy. And so just remember to reach out to your broker, have them reach out to their broker. We've met with our PACE partners. They're here to help understand and broach some of the more difficult situations here, but just recognizing that insurance is a key part of your work and also of your partner's work. So you will need to do a partnership agreement. That partnership agreement, I saw the question in the chat, will need to be current. You will make sure that you have an overview of the partnership roles and responsibilities, a description of the service provided, budget details. I'm not saying they have to break down every penny, just it could be the price point that you've picked. Communication and coordination mechanisms, so how you plan to work together, any conflict resolution strategies, data sharing and privacy compliance, insurance requirements, the duration of the partnership. Here's just a list of that it may include. You get to pick what pathway that you use in your individual district. It could include a MOU, an MOA, a contract, but at minimum, we need a partnership letter with that agreement. So a written letter of support. Most folks did a written letter of support in the past, and you may in fact do an MOU within the structure in the back end as you design your program as well. So For the application, you have to have that written letter of support with at least one partnering organization, the specific services to be provided by that partner or organization, and how they support academic enrichment or youth development. They don't have to do all of the components. They can do a part of the component. If they do the part of the literacy component, where we expect them to be trained, you can train them. We have to make sure that the literacy component of this is rooted in research-based practice. And as K-12 ESDs and education partners, you have folks on staff that can help make sure that that professional development happens. You'll need an overall budget designed for the services. Oops, just back one.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Not to exceed 90% of the total summer learning grant award. So in this case, what you're not going to do is say, hey, I'm going to give all the money to X, except for ESDs. We'll have that conversation in a minute. But it won't exceed 90%. You have to have, your granting entity has to have a piece of the pie. Please note if services are provided in kind and then no budget is available. So it's totally fine if you're partnering, so-and-so has money, so-and-so has money, we're throwing it together and we're doing an awesome program. If there's no cash changing hands, totally fine, just list it and make sure that that written letter of support is included in your application. Okay, ESDs. We did a little shifting around our ESDs as we looked at 2007. We, for ESDs that are present, we have a meeting later on this week just to have a conversation just about ESDs. So if you're able to come, that would be great. If not, happy to support you beyond today to think through the ESD component. We know that because 2007 focuses on literacy needs, that ESDs too will be focusing on literacy needs, especially students that are not yet reading in proficiency, and that they are required to do proactive outreach. So actively contacting component districts that did not receive direct funding to offer summer learning support opportunities. So we have 183 grantees in this space. Last time we had 72. So we have far more people in the room, and that's wonderful. And there's far more people out there that didn't get awards. And so ESDs in your regions, your responsibility is to connect with your community K-12s in your region and make sure that you're asking them, hey, are you interested? How can we partner? What could this look like? So that we can broaden the reach through the ESD work. ESD options, something that we added this year as a pass-through option. So ESDs may award funds to districts or charter schools, but retain full responsibility for the fiscal oversight, program compliance, reporting, and meeting all grant requirements. So before we required ESDs to have a piece of the pie. You'll have a piece of the operational pie, but not necessarily the instructional academic pie like we had required before. So this is a new shift, thinking about how we're working on the proactive outreach and directing towards those districts that did not receive funds. The goal is still to have that collaborative model. We are encouraging ESDs to build partnerships, both with funded and non-funded districts and charter schools, leveraging expertise, resources, and student access. This is ESD work. We know that you're great at it. Just encouraging that to continue in this space. And direct student services aren't options. ESDs can deliver direct summer programming, including academic instruction and youth development activities aligned in the grant goals. But you will have to center on the 2007 requirements associated with all of the primary components of the programming.
Tennille, really quick, there is a question about sending the ESD meeting info. Who all was that sent to originally?
It was
that
sent,
just the superintendents or?
No, I believe it was sent by OA ESD and Kelly Hildebrandt and the executive support. Can't think of her name in this moment, but if you put your name in the chat, I'll send it to you.
Thank you, Tennille.
So what about consortiums? We had some brilliant examples of consortiums, some really awesome spaces where folks in small communities and elsewhere really got together to do some creative things with their resources and their community. So any combination of eligible to apply school districts, charter schools, and ESDs may opt to create a consortium. So what this means is that you pool funds and resources. There's one lead applicant and one grant agreement. So if you've got 4 or 5, 2, 3, doesn't matter the configuration, more than one, of eligible entities can get together with one application. This streamlines grant management, simplifies oversight, reporting, etc. And you can work together from a partnership standpoint with those and CBOs and other people in your community to really think about how you broaden the consortium reach of your summer learning program. Virtual schools are eligible this year. There is a caveat, however. You have to primarily be in-person programming. So that feels a little odd, right? Because virtual schools are generally online. But this program, Summer Learning, is a hands-on program, and as a result requires in-person programming. So you need to meet all the program requirements and primarily be in person. If you have questions about that, happy to work with you in office hours or in another space to help you contemplate how you would approach this work. Students enrolled in virtual charter schools may also participate in summer learning program operated by the school district where they reside as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it to Savannah because I know you've been excited about looking at that application.
All right.
I got no big smiles from that joke there.
Virtual charter schools will have the same attendance requirements. Just to answer one last question in the chat there. And I have been answering questions in the chat as I can. For those that I have not yet answered, don't worry, we have seen them. I will bring them back up after this section, since I'm sure you're all excited to see the application. And to clarify, the application is not due tomorrow. It is due May 12th. So you do have a little bit of time, at least. I know it's not a lot, but it's hopefully something. Let me see here. Okay, so, and there we go. That's on this slide right here. So yeah, May 12th, we have the application due or declining funds if you do not intend to accept your allocation. Because this is such a short time frame, we will accept a partial application. So if you submit your application to us, it doesn't have to be 100% complete. It can be just the main parts filled out, and then that way we can secure your funds for you and hold that place for you. But we cannot accept late applications. And the reason for this is because anyone who declines an allocation, their dollars will be allocated to the next district on the waiting list. And so we would really like to be able to get as many districts funded as possible. And so because of that, we won't be able to accept the late applications. But as long as you send us something and at least let us know in some way that you do intend to apply or you do want these funds, we will make sure that that your funds are held for you. Between May 13th and the 20th, we will be sending confirmations that the applications have been received and that your funds are secured. That way you have that confirmation, you know that we got everything you sent us. By May 21st, we will be posting the final awards to the webpage and announcing them. And then by June 16th is when we will need to have all application refinements or completed applications submitted, as well as a full list of program goals and program schedules, which we will go over shortly in the application form. I'm going to the next slide. And so if you're declining funds, that is absolutely fine. There are no penalties to that. This does not mean that you will not get a grant in 2026. It does not at all negatively affect your chances of getting future funding. However, we do ask that you let us know, send us an email as soon as you know that you're going to decline your funds so that we can work to get those funds to the next entity on the wait list as quickly as possible. And we can go to the next slide. And so this is just a brief outline of the different application requirements. I won't go through each one here since I will be walking through the application here in just a moment. So can we go ahead and go to the next slide? And so this slide, we are going over, we're again going to ask for your academic goals. We did change the information we're asking for ever so slightly. And the arrows here are indicating what are drop-down cells. So we've tried to make this as automated and easy to fill out as possible. And so that you really only have a couple of long answer sections to fill out for your goals. And for the applications due May 12th, we will have a single literacy goal for any grade band will be needed for the application. But we won't be asking for full goals until June 16th. And in those goals, we will need one literacy goal per grade band served for all summer programs being offered. So we can go to the next slide. And here we are to the application walkthrough. So I'm going to go ahead and take over the screen share. Okay. And can everyone see this okay? Perfect. So this is the first page of the application. So this is what you'll see as soon as you open the file. This is just a completion checklist to help you make sure that you've got all of the required fields filled in throughout the application. And I will say it looks, for those of you who didn't do this application last year, it looks like a lot. It looks really big and scary. I promise you it is not as scary as it looks. There's just a lot of tabs. But these fields here correspond to each of the required fields throughout the application. And you can click on any of these to go to that section of the application or that specific question. And these will automatically update as you fill in your answers throughout, except for the two fields for the supplemental documents, which you will need to manually select. So the applicant info tab is pretty basic, just putting in the applicant ID, any consortium members if you have them, and then just filling in your general contact information for the different grant contacts. And then also we added this year a box asking if you would be interested in hosting a few of us for a site visit during the summer. And this is not a compliance-based or a monitoring site visit. This is really purely just we want to come out and see all the amazing things that are happening in the programs across the state. And so if you'd like to do that, you can select that here. You can indicate if you're open for that, or if you don't have capacity for that, that's fine too. But this will help us kind of get our short list of entities to be reaching out to when we're planning our site visits for the summer. For the academic tab, we have one question that refers to how you'll be using student level data to identify students most in need of academic support, and how you will use that data to determine the priority content areas that your grant will be focusing on. And all of the narrative responses we do say should be 250 words or less. So we're really not trying to make these super crazy in-depth. It doesn't have to be really, really long or really, really detailed. We're really just looking for some brief, high-level answers here. And then for the academic growth, the goals, this is where you'll input that one literacy goal that is required for the initial application. And then, like I said, each of these are dropped down. So you can see here, you can select the academic content area. You can select the grade level that you'll be focusing on. You can select from a drop down of the of state standards that you're targeting for growth. And these are at the strand level for English language arts and the domain level for math and science. And then here's where you'll input your goal description, and then the performance measures, again, the same drop down is in here. And we've also added definitions for these right below this table as well this year, just to kind of help determine what it is that we mean by each of these. And we will be sending out a separate form for completing all of the final goals, and that will happen in mid-May. So you will get a separate sheet to do your full goals to be submitted by June 16th. For the youth development tab, we just have one narrative question here for asking about how you'll be infusing literacy into your enrichment activities. And then we have the same kind of table that we did last year, where we just ask you to select from the dropdown, just select yes on any of the activities that you do plan to offer as part of your summer program. And we know that this very well might change. We know that you may not have a super concrete plan in place yet, and that's okay. We're just looking for general, at this point in time, what you think you'll be offering in your programs. It is a long list, but you don't have to go through and select no to all of them. You can just select yes to the ones that you will be offering. As well, a reminder that as part of this grant, you will be required to administer the ODE Elevating Student Voice Summer Survey, which was formerly called the Summer Seed Survey. And we will be hosting a webinar about that in June and giving you additional information on what that looks like. For this tab, it's again just a couple of narrative questions about equitable outreach engagement, culturally and linguistically responsive approaches, and serving students experiencing disabilities. And again, these should be fairly short, high-level answers. Doesn't have to be incredibly detailed. And then on the budget tab, here is where you will indicate how much of your allocation you plan to accept. These cells here will autofill once you fill out your entity ID on that first applicant info tab. So this will automatically appear. And then underneath, you'll just enter in the amount that you would like to accept for your grant here. And if you accept the whole amount, that's great. Please still put that in there. Or if you would like to accept a amount slightly less than what your allocation is, that's also fine. And that would allow us to roll funds forward to the next eligible entity. So please do only claim or only accept what you reasonably expect that you'll be able to spend throughout the summer. Just so that we can make sure that these funds go as far as we can possibly make them go. And if you do apply as a consortium, then each of your amounts will show here, and then this will be your total grant amount that you're claiming. We'll also be asking about any additional funding sources that you'll be braiding with these funding sources or with this grant fund to provide your summer programming. You can click into here and you can just type in the name of your funding source. So it could be SSA Summer, or it could be one of the title grants. It could be any other funding source you're using. And then the total dollar amount of that funding source. And then again, just a very brief explanation of how you'll be braiding those funds to provide the summer program. Here we have, if you applied last year, you'll notice that this tab is has a lot less detail on it. We're really paring it down to just wanting to know generally, primary site name. And if you have a site coordinator principal name identified already, that's amazing. If you don't, then just put in the name of whoever we can reach out to later in the summer to get that contact information. We also want to know generally what your program plan is as far as when your start and end date is, your total number of weeks, number of days per week, and hours per week. And this is where we'll want to see that you'll have that 80 hours of programming met, or if it's a Jumpstart Kinder program, then 30 hours. And then your estimated enrollment by grade level. And again, we know that this might not be totally set in stone or not, and it might change, and that's perfectly okay. However, similar to the goals, we will be asking this year for a detailed schedule for each program offered, and that will also be due on June 16th. And that will also be on a separate template that we'll send out in mid-May to everyone who submits their applications. For the additional documents tab, this is just where we outline the requirements for, again, that existing summer learning plan, and also the requirement for that letter of support from your partnering entity, or from at least one of your partnering entities. And as well, we have added a narrative question this year that just asks about how will your partnering entity or entities support with the grant requirements for providing literacy instruction, academic enrichment, and or youth development. And then the last tab is just the assurances. And this is just where you'll just need to type in your name, just certifying that you have read and understand and will adhere to the program requirements and also the reporting requirements. And then that's the whole application. So it does seem scary at first. It does seem like a lot, but it'll go pretty fast. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible. And again, we'll accept a partial application as long as you get this first tab filled out and you at least try a couple of the other questions, and that's enough for us to be able to say you'll want your funds, and we'll hold those for you until you can complete the rest of the application by June 16th.
Savannah, we just had a question. When will they have access to the application?
That is a great question. That should be posted to our webpage by the end of today. And if not by the end of today, then it will be first thing tomorrow morning. And as well, I can send out the application to everyone who registered for the webinar and is attending today as well. So you'll have that immediately.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Savannah, can I share my screen again?
Please do.
Okay, let's see if I can do that here. Okay, so just some final thoughts here. Don't forget, we have some summer learning resources to support your work. We have our summer learning best practice guide. There's a lot of information in there around braiding funds. That's very helpful. Our summer learning toolkit that has a number of practical tools. There's planning documents from the Wallace Foundation. There's a bunch of things in there. So if you haven't had a chance, check it out. We also have our Jumpstart Kindergarten Toolkit for those planning transition programs. This is a great resource to have and hold and use. All of these are located on our summer learning resource page. So that is your one-stop shopping place for everything state summer learning grants, including the application, which should be posted at any time. Okay, the next slide. Oops. Also, we have our Oregon's literacy frameworks. So we have our early literacy framework that I know you all know about. So we have a link here as well as the adolescent literacy framework. What a perfect place for summer learning to bring in both early literacy and that disciplinary literacy and infuse it through all those high interest activities. So these are great resources for you. As well as we'll drop in the chat. Kat's going to drop in a bunch of these links right away for high dosage tutoring, another great area where you can bring in partners, a perfect place to stand up high dosage tutoring, extended learning criteria. It meshes really well. We often call this space expanded learning or out of school time. There's a lot about this space, and calling extended learning that literacy specific with real specific criteria into this space of summer learning, before school, after school summer learning. It's just the perfect marriage. There's also an ODE approved provider list for that high dosage tutoring and all kinds of wonderful resources in this literacy framework. So check it out. Also, more questions. Let's say after this long webinar today, you have a million other questions. We have this question tracker for you. So Kat's going to drop that in the chat. This is open all the time. So we're going to be monitoring that. So let's say in the middle of the night, I hope this doesn't happen, you have a question about summer learning. That's a burning question. Add it to this tracker. And this is what we're going to base our FAQs off of. So each week we will have office hours every Tuesday from 4 to 5. Forever, for I don't know how long. It's going to go as long as we need it. We'll address the questions that come up on the FAQ, and that is an optional place where you can pop in, ask a quick question, pop out, raise a problem of practice to grapple with your colleagues. ODE will be there to support. So just an optional space to support you. And again, we'll try to keep up with those FAQ questions, post them on our website, and address them during those office hour times. And then again, important links, our State Summer Learning Grant webpage, that's the key page for this grant. We also have our summer learning resource page with a number of other resources for you. And as always, if you have any questions, I know that this is a critical time. There's so much going on, and just deeply appreciate all the care and efforts to lift summer learning. We know it's last minute. We know the timeline's not optimal, but what we know to be true is that Oregon educators rise to the occasion every single time, and we are just so deeply grateful to be able to link arms with all of you and support summer learning. It matters, it's important for our kids and families. So please don't hesitate to reach out to our ODE summer learning inbox. We're here for you. And then here, just some smiley faces from last summer. You know, I just can't wait. We cannot wait to see what you do this summer. It just amazes us, constantly amazes us. Our governor said, you know, last summer, we envision an Oregon where all students have access to these essential learning and enrichment opportunities. So again, our gratitude. Tennille, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just we have plenty of time. Happy to answer some questions and do some level setting. I know we said a lot. Office hours is a great space. Generally, we get a ton of people to start, and it kind of wanes over time. But happy to see you in that space as well. Some of the questions that are in the chat we were able to answer. Some of them just as a rapid fire, we need some time to answer them. Hopefully those that answered early in the asked a question early got the answers before we concluded, and still really happy to answer some questions. One of the things that just speaks to me as a superintendent and educator before I came to the department is when I think about this, I was like, well, okay, what the heck does this mean? Like at its base, what does it mean to have summer and literacy merged together? Does that mean I can't have my CTE program? No, it doesn't. You can absolutely have your CTE program with literacy. Does that mean that I can't have my credit recovery program? You did amazing work last year with credit recovery. Yes, you can. You can have credit recovery, but you have to have literacy. The components of the program can still exist because you need hands-on, you need enriching activities. You also need the academic components with literacy. And it's how you put those things together is what will be the summer learning program 2007. So I think that you're all brilliant and you're so creative, and you'll come up with this key blend, unique to your community, unique to your students' needs. And at the end of the day, we want students to increase their reading and literacy proficiency. We want them to increase their academic skills. We want them to feel connected, safe, well, belong. We want them to improve their connections with folks and to have an awesome summer too. There's joy involved. And you put all those things together, and we really think this summer learning program will be successful. We want you to know that we're going to take this data and the information, and we'll be working with the legislature. We'll be giving presentations. We'll be using that data to inform iterative decisions. And we'll be thinking about all the things that we learn from you ongoingly as we retool and restructure this program year over year as we learn together in the extended learning, summer learning space. So those are kind of the things that like speak to me as we think about approaching this work. But I'm happy to, I think we have quite a bit of time, happy to answer some questions either new in the chat or on unmuting.
Yeah, and I've got a few in the chat queued up as well that I was
Perfect.
gonna revisit here. First questions that we have are a couple around what's included in the 80 hours. So we have a question of, can we count recess in the time of 80 hours? And another question of, can time in transport be counted in the 80 hours for those that have some pretty long bus rides?
I could jump into that. So what we're looking at with the 80 hours is that student contact time. So the transition to the program and then home from the program, we're not really seeing that in that instructional component of those 80 hours. So within that day, however you have it structured, so whether it's a half-day program or a full-day program, yes, kids need to eat. They need to get outside and run and play and connect with each other and do those kinds of activities. Absolutely. That's a key component of it. We're going to be embarking in a rulemaking process where we will engage with our community to talk about, does there need to be more borders around time? How much time for the academic? How much time for enrichment? That's a question that we are going to ask you, where do there need to be more borders around that or not? Right now, 2025, I think we have enough borders to get us started. Use your good professional judgment and instincts to create the highest quality program possible. We know that the more kids have time in rich, engaging experiences that matter to them, that are engaging both head and heart, all of that matters within those 80 hours. We trust that you are going to be able to design a program that meets your students' and families' needs. Savannah, you'll have to cue us up.
Yes. I'm just trying to find my next question in place here. Let's see. So there is a question of, is there an SIA summer program grant that is separate from the SIA grant?
Oh, I think I know what that question is referring to. I think I mentioned using SIA dollars. And I know in some individual district strategic plans that as a strategy, as a really good viable strategy, some districts have written in summer learning or after school learning. So if that's the case, I would just suggest connect, talk to your administrators and your district level to make sure that you are all rowing in the same direction, that you're reinforcing all of those really good plans, and that after school summer learning is such a viable, great strategy for helping you to realize your overall goals for your school and districts. Jump into Neil if I'm going to add.
Right.
Another question is, what happens if we are unable to get staff committed to provide the summer school breakfast and lunch?
Raquel put, add in, but my understanding is that we're prioritizing the use of the USDA program, and when and where we are not able to utilize those, we can default to the use of grant funds. Is that accurate, Raquel?
Yes, and often I know it can be a struggle. So as you're tapping into those USDA programs, staffing often can be an issue. So you can certainly use state summer learning grant funds to help support staffing of those programs in the summer months. So I would join arms with your child nutrition program and figure it out, like how can we work together? Sometimes, I've done this before. I've recruited program staff and supported getting their food handlers license so that they could then take the training and then work with child nutrition, and then we could braid funds together and support the program. Staffing is always difficult, and it's just kind of finding that magic sauce and knowing you can use these grant funds flexibly to help support that.
Perfect. Okay, so the next question that we have, and we may or may not be able to answer these two, but one is that I thought we were no longer able to use our SIA and high school success funds in the summer, and then also high school success is for grades 8 through 11, correct? Might have to follow up with
I
our
don't want to
colleagues
make a
on that one.
mistake.
Right.
I think I understand where the hiccup might be on that assumption, and we will make sure that we have our Office of Education, Innovation, and Improvement help us to answer it very succinctly, just because not our program, and we don't want to make a mistake and cause confusion to the field. But it's a great question.
The next question is, do the letters of support need to be current, or can we use letters from previous year's programs like 21st CCLC, knowing that it is an ongoing partnership?
That's a good question. I said they need to be current, but Raquel, the concept of the ongoing is a one for you to answer, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, if you're a 21st century program that has an ongoing partnership, I would just note that. And yes, we would be, let's make that, we don't want to add extra work for you.
No, no, and I
at
was
all.
thinking like last year's program
Yes.
versus this year's program, if it was specific, that would need an update, but it makes a lot of sense what your answer is.
Yes.
Thanks for pressing on that.
Let's see. Next one we have is the Jumpstart program helps fund a transitional program for incoming kindergartners. Could the summer program also help fund a program for kindergartners to receive an extended traditional kindergarten program? For example, could we use the summer grant for incoming kindergarten students for the month of July and then use the Jumpstart program for all incoming kindergarten students at the beginning of August?
I think the all is what's tripping me up a little bit because this prioritizes students who are struggling with literacy proficiency. And so your lens is who should be eligible should be those in that category and or focal group students. So not that other students couldn't come, but a designated program associated with one group would not quite work. But Raquel, what would you add?
Yeah, I think the same trip up for me. I think we would have to contact us. Let's work through it.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
that's one where we have to
maybe a
ask
slice of it
questions
we
and
can do. Yeah.
right.
I mean, our goal is to get you to yes and meet the grant goals and meet the children's needs. And so if you find yourself in a little bit of a quandary, we want to help.
Yeah, and technically kindergartners are at proficiency level, right? So yes, let's have more conversations. Really good points, for sure.
Another question about historically, we included other enrichment camps in our summer programs, such as archery, cooking, sports, gardening, etc. With this grant, does that mean each camp needs to have a literacy aspect in them in order to use this grant money?
So what we're asking is that enrichment, while all of those activities are wonderful and good, that it is part of a comprehensive program that has a continuous cohort of students that gets to the opportunity to participate in all of that, right? So they get the academics, they get the enrichment component. If you have a little purposeful planning within that, you can infuse literacy throughout. Maybe they're talking about, they're speaking and listening and oral language and background knowledge, where you can utilize some of those strategies to infuse to make that even more rich and relevant. So yes, there would have to be some type of literacy academic component that you're pulling the thread on the enrichment opportunities. So they're not just standalone, entertainment, joy, fun, which is all meaningful. And we can argue all day long on how all of that contributes to overall success. Under House Bill 2007, we really want you to dial that in a bit more purposeful, more enriching, and with that literacy lens.
Okay. And it looks like the next question we have is, can a partner provide PD to teachers, or do they have to provide direct services to students?
A good question.
I didn't contemplate that.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect FAQ question for the team to puzzle on. Great. See, look, I mean, the creativity of
abounds.
Yes. Let's get back to you on that.
Yeah.
And okay, so it looks like we're almost caught up then. Let me see. Looks like the next one we have would be, are district programs expected to serve students in virtual charter schools that reside within their district, or is it just that we may serve them if we choose to do so?
Would you repeat that again? Sorry, Savannah. I
Our
was still
districts
thinking about the
yeah, our districts expected to serve students that attend virtual charter schools in their within their district, or is it just that they can serve the students if they choose to do so?
The latter, they may choose to serve. Of course, we want to, serve all of our Oregon students and give them the opportunity. And those decisions as far as what that looks like and prioritize students not yet reading at proficiency levels, how you determine, how you prioritize those exact specifics, that is at the local level, but we encourage you to serve as many kids as you can.
There's a question a couple times in the chat around addressing the likelihood of district prioritized just above the wait list. So I think what you're saying is we've got eligibles and then we have wait list. We've identified the next people on the list as a wait list group. Savannah, the question earlier was, do they have to fill out an application? What do you recommend, Savannah, from this process? We were successful on waitlist folks last year.
Yeah, I would say if you're on the wait list, please do submit your application now. That will just help things go a lot smoother should we end up having funds to be able to allocate towards you. And we will keep you up to date as grants are declined and as funds become available as well. But I would say absolutely go ahead and submit an application just so it's in, just so we have your information, we're able to move forward if funding becomes available.
Last year, we absolutely had people that declined funds. There's probably a level or a threshold, depending on your district size, who's on the wait list, where you're like, I can't, I'll be able to do it for X, Y, and Z, but I can't do it for maybe too small of a fund, depending on the size of your district. We're going to offer that cash point to you when it becomes available. And that's what's really critical. If you were awarded $1 million, you're a larger district. And we had people that were like, I can only use 700. We immediately took that $300,000 and we gave it to the next entity. And then we gave somebody else said, I don't need it. And they got 20,000. We put that in there and we put that in there until their grant award amount. And so we were able to fund other populations and other community members just by making sure that we were good stewards of these funds. And at the end of the day, we want to go back to the legislature and say we spent them all, and that we spent them all on kids that made the kinds of gains that we're all targeting to make, so that they can see the investment and biennia over biennia continue to invest in this program, and so that more folks can be in this space with us.
We also have one more question that says, can you go into more detail on the expectations around cohorts? And they say that they're happy to voice their questions with examples if we'd like. That may be helpful.
Yeah, if that person's still here, jump on. But really, you're looking at a consistent cohort of students. So, the students who start on day one of the summer program that regularly attend. Now we know that there's going to be ebb and flow in that, right? So you may have some families who can't come or won't be able to attend some days. You'll have to make those decisions at the local level. We never want to turn students away. If you have the room to offer programming and a family can only attend 3 days per week, we don't want to turn people away, but we really want to prioritize and do enough engagement and outreach with families to say, hey, here's the summer program. We want you to be able to commit to the full program and be there every day. We know that when kids come and attend regularly, that we reduce learning loss, we increase reading growth, we realize all these wonderful benefits. So how you figure that out at the local level and what those nuances to that's up to you. But the idea is this is a continuous cohort of students receiving the full program, the full benefit of the program for at least 80 hours.
Yeah, so I'm still here. I think my question is more around what's the definition of a cohort? I mean, yes, so like last year we had a school that put together a summer program where it was all the same kids, but throughout the day they had choices to go do different activities. Is that not okay? Does that break the cohort model because they chose to go to a STEM component for an hour and somebody else chose to go to a different, activity during that time? Does that break the cohort? Do those kids have to stay together in each component of that day as they go through? We had programs that did an AM, more literacy focused and a PM more experiential focused, where kids split and went to different things based on their interest. Is that not okay? All those kids have to stay together.
That sounds beautiful. What we want to do is really engage students and have high interest activities. So as long as they're receiving the academic component and then have the opportunity to choose a different high interest activity, but they're going to a different group, that sounds like high quality programming to me. Just as long as some kids only come for the chess club and that's all that they come for. We really want that to be well-rounded, and they get the academic parts, they get the enriching parts that are high interest, that they have the full benefit of those program goals, those two critical program goals, academics and enrichment together. It's not one or the other. We know that the magic sauce is when they're both together.
All right, that's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Will you double back around to the existing plan? We made this work last year, and it's still in the bill, and I just want to make sure that people understand what the heck is an existing plan.
So the idea is that summer is right around the corner in just a few weeks, and we need to be assured that you have the capacity to implement a summer 2025 program under House Bill 2007. And the idea is that if you have an existing plan, then you should have the capacity to implement this program. So a plan, we're pretty honestly, full transparency, we're pretty loose on this. We want you to talk to us about your plan. Your plan could be, if you have a 21st century grant, that's a great plan. You already have the foundations for an after school and summer learning program. If you have an early literacy plan that has the components of high dosage tutoring, and you're doing this in after school and you want to extend that for summer, great. That's a plan that we will take. If you have a high school success plan that you can extend and morph into a summer program, the idea is that in this short turnaround time, that you can build off of a plan. And not only that, summer should be a connection to your goals and objectives that you're doing during the school year. It should be a great strategy to extend all of those efforts. So the more that you're aligning to those plans and creating continuity, the better. So if you're worried about your plan, call us. Call us and we will work it out with you, because I guarantee you have some kind of a plan that we can find a way for. Tennille, was there anything else about that I missed? Okay. You're on mute.
I hate when I'm a good steward of mute and then I forget it. I was contemplating this just like if I was back in school district, and I would just be thinking through all of the plans and all of the spaces that you have contemplated programming, and when and where you've contemplated summer programming, even if you didn't necessarily infuse dollars into that space, you have an existing plan because you've thought about it, you've brainstormed, you've developed some structures around it, even though maybe you didn't invest in it from a Student Success Act version or some other location. And to Raquel's point, if you're figuring like, I'm not sure that I have one, reach out and we'll help you navigate it. We're getting you to guess. This is our goal. It's to make sure that you get all of these pieces in place and that it works for you and your community is our primary objective.
Also, I had a thought about those who are on the waiting list. And when we say submit an application, fill out 2 boxes on that application and submit it to us. We're not, just get something into us so that we know that you stand ready. So when there is someone that declines funds, that we can start building that out for you and we know. So it's not that you're filling out a full, complete application. Of course, we'll get you there. But we just want to know that you stand ready to take those funds if they become available. We don't want to add any increased burden to you or work. That is our goal. So reach out. If you are struggling, reach out.
Got about 5 more minutes. Happy to have those pop off. It looks like people have been leaving as they need to have office hours. We'll have this recorded webinar. The website's amazing. Pat and Savannah do an awesome job. Cal does a great job on those things. So
Natalia, I saw you pop on. Did you want to mention anything about migrant ed, or I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
That's okay. I was just wondering, a migrant ed program that is within a district or an ESD, they will need to apply through their district's application or their ESD's applications. I'm guessing they would not be able to apply directly for the grant, correct?
correct.
correct, correct.
Thank you.
All right. I know you're going to dig into this and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have 1,000,002 questions. So just note that we're here to help. We'll start pivoting right away to the Q&A document, answering these questions, making sure that we're getting prepared and ready for office hours, ensuring that you are working with you, telephone calls, technical assistance, emails, as things pop up. So feel free to reach out and we will get back to you as soon as possible. We've said it 1,000,000 times, and again, it's not about getting every single thing filled out by the very first day. We know that this is a tight timeline. Get what you can in and then build from there. We want to make sure that you have these funds. We want to make sure that you, as well as you're able, get through this as painless as possible. Anytime you apply for a grant, you got to do the work. It's got a little bit of pain involved. We get that. And we also want to make sure that it's as easy and accessible for you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for being excited, Tanya. Appreciate that. I know it's a lot of work, but it is also a celebration, right? I mean, yes.
So thankful to the legislature and the governor for
Yeah.
championing this initiative. Right.
Tiffany,
Have a
you
lovely
popped
afternoon.
on. Sorry, Tennille, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say have a lovely afternoon, but it sounds like